Alright, sorry for the slow update on this. I should have had this thing built by now, but I waited a week too long on the spring retainers. UPS supposedly tried to deliver them, and I know I was home the whole day they tried to deliver them. So they took them to one of their other locations and didn't even leave a note on the door. I called up K-Tech asking where my retainers were, and then they told me where they're at. So anyways, I finally got the springs, the retainers, and the locators all on, and ended up building this little spring compressor here. It's a lot like the one you buy out of Jegs or Summit. That's my homemade deal there. Worked pretty good. And here is the part numbers you'll need. Got the spring locators from K-Tech 6687, and then the retainers, the 4678. Those are the titanium retainers. Then you also, with those spring locators, have to run these intake and exhaust valve seals: 1253 3586, 1245 7652. Oh, and here is the spring part number if you're interested in that. PSI 1511. I ended up actually not ordering those through K-Tech because they were $100 cheaper through another company. So save money where you can. And I've been soaking my lifters in oil overnight, so they should be ready to throw in here when I get everything else on. Alright, because I'm running, this is a wet sump, and I'm running the wet sump windage tray. The windage tray barely hits the rod bolts, so I ended up getting some spacers from a local hardware store. They're 0.73 thick. Just some washers I'm going to stick on top of the main bolts. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on. Alright, here's where all the washers sit. Just set them on the stud part of the mains. And then you can install your windage tray. Windage tray is labeled front, so you can't be stupid and mess it up. And I will double check the clearance, but that should be what I need because it just barely hit it before. So I'm going to check the clearance now. Alright, it's kind of hard to see here, but you can see it comes really close to the windage tray. The bolt's what comes closest. The rod really doesn't come that close. It's the bolt that almost hits it. In fact, I could actually position the windage tray to where it didn't hit, but it was maybe only a paper's difference, so I wanted to have a little bit of clearance in it. So I got the clearance now, so I'm good. Went ahead and torqued all the windage tray bolts down to 18 foot-pounds. Alright, I got the engine flipped around here. I was going to put my front cover on it, but I forgot. I do not have a new gasket. I have a new cover, but no new gasket. I got the lifters loaded in the trays. I still got to put the bolts in. So I'll put the bolts in next. And then my head gaskets, I'm just running stock LS7 head gasket. The block has already been machined. So basically just clean the dirt off of it. And then I put the head on. One thing you need to know about these heads, whenever you put the newer heads on that don't have the crossover in the rear, the fronts have that open hole right there, and the rears have that rivet. So that's the rear of the head because it does not have the crossover in the rear. So don't get that messed up or you'll hate yourself. Alright, here's this side right before the head goes on. It's just a factory GM MLS multi-layer steel head gasket. You can see there it's got the multi-layers of steel in it, hence the name. And then we'll slap the heads on, and I have ARP bolts to put them on with. Alright, I was going to show you one little problem I ran into here. Sorry the fan's on, it's a little hot in here. This hole right here, I started to put the head on and put the bolts down. I just run them down with the electric impact, just snug. I didn't want to go down very far. So the threads were a little boogered up, and I don't have an 11 by whatever tap it is, I forgot. Or thread chaser, you don't want to use a tap on it, you want to cut new threads. So one trick that I've learned over the years, and probably a lot of you do too, take an old head bolt, this is a stock LS head bolt, and turn it into a thread chaser. You can see those lines I cut right there. Just cut lines on 4 sides, 4 lines through it. You want them deeper on the end, and then lighten up, and then I just run it down the hole just to chase it, get the dirt or little imperfection of the thread out. This one here, I end up do it by hand if you got a bad one. Put some lube in there like WD-40 or something, and then work it in and out till you get it all the way down to where it's supposed to be. And then while I was there, I went ahead and did all the rest just to make sure none of them were messed up. So now I'm ready to put the head on this side. Alright, both heads are on, and I got the bush rod sitting in there. I gooped him up with some of that engine assembly lube. Put it up on the end, and then it's important on the LS7s, if you're running the factory titanium valves, to run these little lash caps so you don't wear the tips of the valve out. Just sit right there on the valve, and then I'll lube all these up with that same lube and put the rocker arms on it. Alright, push rod's in, rocker's on. As you can tell on the LS7, on the intake side, they run an offset rocker. So all I have to do left on the top end is put valve covers on it, drench my drivetrain in oil. Gotta get a front gasket for that, and a cam sensor, put my oil pan on. And before I put the oil pan on, I'll pour oil down the pickup tube, crank the motor over by hand, and it should kind of partially fill the engine with some oil. And I decided to put a little bit of bling on here. No, this is on the wrong side, but some Holley polished valve covers that have the coil mounts made onto them. So those will look pretty sweet on the engine with that intake. But I still got to get bolts. I don't know why Holley doesn't send good looking bolts with those.